But welcome to the 2 Decades Too Late podcast, everybody. Eventually, I'm going to try to reach out to Kenji and see if I can steal his guys, gals, and non-binary pals, because I really like it, but I don't want to rip him off too hard and him be mad about it. He seems like a good dude, so he probably wouldn't care, but welcome in.
Seems like, though, if you cross him, like, he will not be a good dude.
Yeah, I feel like he could crush you pretty easy. And I think he has the power and the, like... Yeah, he's got the clout.
Oh, yeah. And, at least he would turn you into a nice dish.
True. Yeah. Cook me up like Hannibal.
Yeah.
You know what? If that's how I had to go, I've seen some of that. The Hannibal series made me hungry a lot.
That is a way to go.
It does help that I knew it wasn't actually human, but, I mean...
They didn't use human?
What a weird thing. Some administration who is over such things probably cared a lot. Yeah, welcome into the podcast. I am Brad, and this is Josh.
What up?
This is the podcast where we review albums that are turning 20 years old, mainly metal for whatever it's worth. We each give them a 1 through 5 rating on 4 different criteria, with a maximum rating of 20 from each of us, with a maximum rating total of 40. This week we're doing things a little differently. Instead of one album where we drone on about it forever, we're going to do kind of a year-end version, and we're going to try to pepper this in once a quarter because we want to try to get in as many albums as we can, and we got a late start this year because life kind of happened to both of us a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to rapid fire 5 albums and essentially just kind of give our high level thoughts and give our ratings.
Hell yeah. 5 album jam session.
Yep, and we are gonna call them jam sessions if nothing else, so I can keep going jam.
And
I will. So unlike normal, let's get to the reviews.
Sick. First album, Avenged Sevenfold, Waking the Fallen.
Tell me what you think, man.
Dude, so I just, like I told you, I copy and pasted your scorecard into the sheet so I could keep track of my notes here. I just went ahead before I even listened to the album and put in all 5s, and I stand by it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So... I did not do that, but I'm still trying to hold off until the end, though I guess for these it's probably not the right call. But I'm doing all 5s too. Yeah, I mean, I am not an Avenged Sevenfold fan per se. I did like this album when it came out, but I don't think I appreciated the complexity of it at all at the time, not as much as now. I mean, it's like... It blends Metallica and like progressive metal with metalcore, and it's great.
Yeah, and it's the last album to sound like this. It's the first album to sound like this, honestly, for Avenged Sevenfold. Kind of definitely a major evolution over sounding the Seventh Trumpet. And then after this, they kind of took a different direction because M. Shadows was like, I don't want to scream anymore.
Well, he like ruined his voice and had to get surgery.
Yeah, but still, And
a lot of people come back from that and scream. And I actually do have a call out on this. There's something kids, listen. If you emulate vocals on that album, you too will blow your vocals out. They are wrong in every facet. However, I just want to say that sometimes that's how you get the best performance, when someone is just doing whatever they want to do, whether it's good or not, and it sounds awesome. It's like all the old hardcore dudes, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They're just screaming out of their face, but like the result is never going to go anywhere, and I'm glad it's the result that it is.
Right. So Brad and I both big fans of the charismatic voice, and Elizabeth would be so disappointed in hearing us say that. But sometimes you just got to wreck your throat.
I know, but like, argue with the result. You can't, like, now you could say, I could eat 17 cheeseburgers for the rest of the day, and the result might be that I feel awesome for a minute because I'm like, hell yeah, I just ate 17 cheeseburgers. But the doctor would probably say, yeah, but tomorrow you might die. And it's like, I got it. I get there's a balance. But I'm glad that he laid down the vocal tracks that he did because they're awesome. And it's never boring. Awesome. It's interesting the whole time. Every song is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Top tier musicianship throughout. So I guess we can go through the categories. Album artwork, like I said, I just threw in a placeholder 5, but I started to look at it, and so Brad and I had this discussion, like, what are we considering the album art? And it seems like the one you're most likely to find is the one that's just blank, except for Death Bat, the band name, and the name of the album.
Yep. Which, if you listen to last week's episode, sometimes that's the way to go. At least for me, but I think it rules. And even if we were to go off of the other album art that is like a painting of an angel, I think it's a great painting. I would have given it a 5 too, but we just decided to go off the bat because it seems to be the one that's around.
Right.
What about production then versus now?
Yep. It sounded great. I mean, everything came through crystal clear. Everything's highlighted well, and it still holds up to this day very well.
Yeah, I mean, and there's bass, which was a novel concept for 2003 for a lot of bands. Yeah, like it's so good. Like so we kind of skipped over this a little bit last episode, not exactly, but a little bit. If I'm going to say then, it was better than most. And if I'm going to say now, it still holds up completely. I mean, I don't find it out of place, really. You could nitpick certain things. Yes, I know production has gotten insanely good, but, like, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, it was done by Andrew Murdoch, who they call Mud Rock, which is hysterical.
Sick. That is an awesome nickname.
Yeah. He did Godsmack's self-title and their Awake album, which both sound amazing.
Yeah. They do, and I called that out. Like, he's definitely no slouch, and we're going to get to some other... There's some bigger name producers on the list of this particular 5 album that we're doing, but, like, he killed it, man. Like, I don't know how, like, we're going to talk about Every Time I Die, but, like, Avenged Sevenfold wasn't huge. Their previous album was, like, a low-budget punk album with some screaming emo stuff on it.
Very punk, yep.
Yeah, so, like, it's not like this is what got them big, not they were big and then made this. So the fact that they got a producer to nail it that hard, good for them, man.
Yeah. This album went platinum in 2021. So, you know, it definitely opened some floodgates for Avenged Sevenfold. And if you're a fan of Avenged Sevenfold and haven't listened to this album, definitely go back and give it a try. It's not going to sound like what you think it will. And that's a good thing.
No. Yeah. And honestly, the vitriol toward the record after this, I don't understand now that listening to this, because it's like they didn't change that much. There's a lot of progressive stuff on here and thrash and stuff, like, so.
Yeah.
I don't get why everyone got so mad. What about impact at the time for you?
Impact at the time was a big 5. I listened to this album a lot. The drums, I wanted to emulate the drums. Like, I wanted all of our guitar to sound like that, and like the combination of singing and screaming worked perfectly. Like, big impact.
Yep, same. It was great. I mean, what was the Unholy Confessions came out, and everyone was like, it is. That's the thing to do.
That is.
And, like, you know what? I think secretly I could probably want to give myself a 4 or a 3 on this, because I don't want it to seem as impactful as it was, but it was. And it impacted everyone else, just like As I Lay Dying did. This was the year that thing became what it was. Like, so, yeah, you'd be lying to yourself if you were into metalcore back then and this didn't matter to you. What about enjoyed listening to today?
Definitely a solid 5. Like, I remembered every second of this. Like, every guitar solo, every drum fill. I was like, yes!
Yeah. Nope, totally agree. 5. I have nothing else to say. It was just a blast, and I'm sad that this is one of the few on this list that we're doing that wasn't in my rotation, but it is now. So.
Yeah. Sick.
Yeah. All right, next one. What are we doing?
Next one's Dimmu Borgir, Death Cult Armageddon.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? Let's just. I want to hear just your high level because so just very quickly. This album has never not been in a rotation for me ever since I heard it in that year. I love every second of it. I listen to it to death. I probably listen to it 2-3 times a year. That said, it's not my favorite Dimmu Borgir album. Puritanical, euphoric Misanthropia is. But this is like 1B. And I love it. But you already knew that about me, so I want to hear what you think.
Yeah. This one was super interesting to me, especially to dive into and read some reviews on. I found them... I learned some stuff because this one was not in my regular rotation. It still isn't today. I don't listen to a ton of Dimmu Borgir, which is funny because I love it. Like, it sounds great. It's everything I want all the music that I listen to sound like. I just, sometimes you don't want to get it directly from the source. You want it watered down a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, going through it, it was amazing. I had heard the main songs. I always knew you were a big fan of Redis Beard. So, like, I knew that song, and I knew Progenies. But apart from that, I never listened to the album. Like, this was probably my first true listen through of the album.
Nice. Well, then you go first, man. What do you think of the album art?
Album art, so I saw a couple different versions of the album art. Like, one was just the pentagram, and then the other one was just like a blank circle that looks like a clutch plate in an engine. So if you can't picture that, Google it and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. On YouTube Music, though, like, the album artwork is a combination of those two things. So it's got like a detailed outer circle and then the pentagram in the middle. And I gave that version a 5, and that was kind of what I ran across when I was looking for it. It's super simple, but like really well detailed as a graphic, and just kind of, it's like, it says a lot without saying a lot.
I am going to look at Spotify very quickly, and I just want to make sure that I gave the rate. Oh, you know what? Yeah. That's exactly right. I did the same thing, and I also gave it a 5.
Sick.
It's killer. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. 5s on the album artwork. What do you think about the production then versus now?
Production's got to be a 5. A lot of the times, you want to knock it down to like a 4 or something because you can always do better, but that's not the case with this album. This album just is a 5. Especially with the orchestrations, like everything being highlighted when it needs to be, everything falling into the back when something else is being featured. The Prague Philharmonic Symphony was on this album. It was kind of a collaboration, and one of the reviews says, like, this thing just pisses all over Metallica's S&M album. Like, this is how you record with
That's
the symphony.
Amazing. Wow, that is incredible.
And I like that album, but
I do too, but this
is way more integrated.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but Frederick Nordstrom, which I'm sure it's not pronounced Nordstrom, I know there's the umlaut, but like, he did the Darkest Hour album that we just did, right? Because he's like,
think you're right.
He's that guy. And you know what, before I say this, I guess, like, so it was him. We said at the time, it's weird that the production on that album wasn't as good as like an older album like Slaughter of the Soul, excuse me. And then again, same year, like, you can tell the dude cared about some bands a little more than some others. I'm just gonna say, because this is a 5 for me too. The production is incredible. I mean, I have nothing bad to say about it. But yeah, Impact at the time, I assume this is where we're going to diverge a little bit.
Yeah, so Impact at the time, I mentioned, I didn't listen to this album at the time, so I can't justifiably give it a whole lot. I gave it a 2, which is more than a 1, but less than a 3 for those of you keeping track at home.
Well done. Well done by you.
So I just never really sought it out. So I don't know if I ever really heard the whole album at the time, like I said, but I mean, I know it probably impacted me tangentially more than directly.
I get that. I get that. And I said this before, I believe. So I like Dimmu Borgir a lot. It was not the first black metal band I got into. I got hip to Sons of Northern Darkness from Immortal before this, probably in 2002-ish, if I'm remembering that right, maybe early 2003. And I love that. Immortal's always been a mainstay for me ever since. But Dimmu Borgir was the second black metal band I heard. And being able to hear such like different approaches to the same like umbrella of music was huge for me.
Right.
The only reason, so I'm going to give it a 4, even though it was very impactful for me. But yeah, it's just because the way I've kind of gauged impact on some of the other albums we reviewed, I can't say this impacted me in the same way as those did. You know, it impacted my music taste, and it impacted like what I would like seek out after that a lot, where I was like, cool, I need to find some shit like this. This is super rad. But like, it didn't impact me just in, I can't say that like, you know, we're going to eventually do like, I don't know, a Zao album or a Killswitch album, and I can't give Killswitch Engage a 5, which I will. I mean, spoiler, there's no way around it. And say that this is the same 5. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think
it's a great point.
So yeah, so I would say 4, but enjoyed listening to it today.
I gave it a 4.
Okay.
I'm surprised I didn't give
Fair
it a
enough.
5. Now that like you asked me and I had to double check.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I probably enjoyed learning about the album more than I enjoyed listening. So if you told like, hey, what'd you think about researching this album? I would have given that a 5. But listening to it is definitely a 4.
People, do you want us to start doing out of 25 and how much we liked researching the album in the future? I mean, this can be fluid to a little extent. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, no, that's fair. So, I'm giving it a 5. It's always been a 5 for me.
Yeah. I docked it 1 because it got a little long toward the end. So for me, it's an hour long. The first half is like 25 minutes. The second half is like 35 minutes, which doesn't seem like a big deal. But it kind of felt like a big deal with a 7-minute song and then an 8-minute song and then a 6-minute song to close the album.
Yeah, I think like there's a little bit of knowing what you're getting into there that kind of impacts that experience, I feel. What's that Brad Pitt movie about Billy the Kid, like the
assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford?
Jesse James. Yeah, there you go. Nailed it. Like, I love that movie, but I would never recommend it to somebody. You know what I mean?
No.
Because it's like it takes 2 years to watch. But sometimes I'm like, I really like a crescendo sort of thing or really long movements and stuff. Not always.
Right.
I just, they hit the mark for me on those. Other bands do it almost exactly the same, and it should be as good. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing and they just hold a special place for me, but yeah, I give it a 5 if I didn't already say that, but 5 all day. All right, sick. And don't worry, guys, at the end of this, we will do a roundup of totals. We're just, we're trying to get to getting. What's the next one?
You're keeping track of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, cool. Just real quick, couple interesting tidbits since I did enjoy looking at it so much. So some of the reviews that I read, which I found these super weird, both reviews mentioned people thinking like orchestras have no place in metal. And I thought that was super weird because like I associate Dimmu Borgir especially with orchestration and kind of symphony.
So if you go back to their earlier records, they wasn't so much. They were more of a traditional like second wave of black metal. I remember. Listen, man, you're not gonna find a fan base like black metal fans, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like they like what they like, and man, they will literally bleed for it. That not figuratively, they will actually do that. You have like Shining, where the guy's cutting himself on stage and shit, which is nuts. Weirdly though, great black metal band. But it's a definite don't put your peanut butter in my chocolate situation with a lot of black metal fans. So I'm not super surprised by that because I bet whoever did that review really likes Immortal and really likes like early Emperor and I do too. I just like, but I don't. don't just like Marvel or DC, guys. Like the fact that both are available to you and you can have a variety. Not everything has to be the same all the time.
Yeah, it also said old school fans might not like the clean vocals, which is another thing that I associate with Dimmu Borgir.
Yeah, to the point where they have to play his tracks over the PA now, and rather than move into a different format and not have them on what is Abracadabra, they got the singer vocalist from Animal Alpha. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Animal Alpha, killer band, very weird, not for everybody, but shout out to them. I remember actually showing them to you and you being like, I'm surprised you like this. I was like, fair enough. I love that band. Shout out to them. Actually, I'm going to look them up and see what year that album came up now, because I would like our differing opinions. Yeah, I'll look it up. Yeah. Anyway,
and then last
is interesting, but
weird.
Not surprising.
Last super weird thing is, like, I always think this is super weird when the lead vocalist is not the main lyricist.
That is odd. I'm jealous of that. If I were in a band, all you out there, I do metal vocals. Gates to the Abyss is the album's everywhere you want to stream stuff if you want to check it out. But I would kill to be in a band where I'm the vocalist and didn't have to write lyrics.
Yeah.
Because like I hate it. I absolutely hate it. So it is weird. It's definitely weird. And not the norm. I mean, I know like Cannibal Corpse does that, and of course Rush famously, Neil Peart did all. But like it's not the norm. So that's interesting. And I am jealous of that fact from him.
Yeah, the lead singer is credited on a lot of the music, and the guitar player is credited as the main the lyrics on every song.
Weird. Yeah, good call out by you. That's really cool.
So, great band.
All right,
great CD.
Yeah. What's next? What do we got?
Let me check the tapes here. Ooh, this is a good one. I think you'll like it. Every Time I Die, Hot Damn.
Hot Damn. And in the sheet where I put the our scores, I did include the exclamation mark, just so you know.
I did too. I did the same
nice
thing.
Awesome. You go
Bet
first,
you can't
man.
guess where this is headed.
Well, we'll see. I'm interested. I don't think we're gonna have the same scores on this, but we'll see.
Oh no.
All right, well, sick. All right, then yeah, let's go ahead and what's your take on the album art?
I gave it a 5.
Interesting.
We're just gonna leave that hanging there.
So it's definitely not bad. I tried to like kind of compare it to some other things going on. It's fine. I don't like dislike it, but I don't love it. So I ended on a 3 on the album art.
All right. See, I had it as like simple but effective. It wasn't a whole lot like anything else at the time. So if you go to like New Junk Aesthetic, everybody was doing that shit.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's weird to me because like Last Night in Town, I don't think is a very good album overall. But I remember really liking the album art, like the dude like smoking with a hat, like an axe on his shoulder. I always thought that was really funny. But that's their thing. They're funny also, which is good. They actually have a personality and a character. Well, they did, which makes me very sad.
I know. I put a note that says sad. The Wikipedia page says Every Time I Die was an American metalcore band.
It's brutal.
Broke my heart. Yeah. But yeah, I liked that the text was like written in blood, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. The written in blood. You know what? You've talked me into a 4.
Boom.
Yeah, I do like the written in blood thing. Jam. No one, go back and play NBA Jam on Sega Genesis.
And be on fire you'll
hear it.
Yep. Production then versus now. What'd you think? Now I'm super curious to know everything about what you think.
So, okay, I think then it was right. But see, it's funny because we're going through these albums. They all came out the same year. You know what I mean? and that's changing my viewpoint, because I'm like, well, technically, if I'm listening to Dimmu Borgir, now don't get me wrong, there's no way they had even remotely close to the same budget, but we are going to listen to it, like talk about an album where they probably did later, and the production is miles ahead. So I got it. I almost landed on a 2 for this.
Damn.
But I didn't. I landed on a 3. I think the drums are produced very poorly. I think the drummer rules, and I think his musicality and what he plays is great. But
shout out Rap Boy.
Yeah, right. And like, I don't know. I don't think they knew what to do with Keith Buckley's then like growing vocal. Like you know what I mean? He wasn't doing it well necessarily, like not really. I'm not saying that's in a bad way, but you go to the next album, it's night and day. It's like it's two completely different people. And it seemed like they could have handled his weirdness a little better. It seemed like someone could have been on their toes a little more and been able to like navigate that better. So I give it a 3.
I gave it a 4 because of that reason. Like, you can always do better. And I had just listened to Dimmu Borgir, and I was like, this isn't also a 5. If that's a 5.
Yeah,
but
you can't say that's a 5 in this beat as well.
No, I thought it was pretty solid overall. I thought it was mixed well, but everything was pretty clear. Like, your point about Buckley's vocals is definitely well taken, but I attribute that less to the production and more to him just having a shit voice
figuring
at the time.
Yeah,
that's a much better way to put it.
Like, don't get me wrong, I do love the bass tone. Actually, that's probably what caught me to a 3. Is the bass tone it's excellent. Now, back then, bassists really cared about that shit. Like, you remember Ryan Neff, like, just dialing a bass tone for 2 hours and thinking like, this is taking a while, and then you hear it and you're like, good on you. I'm really glad you took the time.
Right.
Love you, Ryan Neff, still. So, no, that's really good call out. I did actually put that in there. Like, all this said, man, the bass sounds super, super good.
Yeah.
But I was just also never a fan of that whole, like, I don't know if this is what they use, if they used orange amp tones, but like that whole like kind of more rock, less, I don't know. I don't want it to sound any other way, by the way. Like, this is one of those confusing ones where it's like, I need to tell you that I love this album, but like, if I'm being objective, I can't give it higher than a 3, especially when like, well, I mean, Avenged Sevenfold, again, they weren't huge yet when they made theirs. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, technically, I mean, I know they had that burial plot bidding war bullshit, but like, I would still call this ETID's like second album. You know what I mean? I wouldn't call it their third. Don't listen to that.
I mean, even go to the wiki page. Like, I had to look. Like, no, I know the burial plot bidding war was a thing, and then I put next to it like, genuinely don't know if this is even worth mentioning. So I'm glad you snuck it in there.
Yeah, it's literally just to tell you not to listen to it. I mean, I guess if you're curious, and you have some time to waste, go ahead, but it's not good. I mean, Last Night in Town's not great, but it has moments, and, you know, Hojo's on there. And
Logic of Crocodiles.
Yeah. All right.
So you know how they make, like, the big red button that you're not supposed to push red for a reason? Because terrible things happen if you push that, but you want to push it because it's red? That's the burial plot bidding war. A terrible thing will happen to you if you listen to it. But now you
and I know now a lot of you will listen to it now, probably. You'll get like a song in. It's just objectively terrible. I mean, the songs aren't good. The production's awful. Keith Buckley sounds like a fucking garbage disposal.
It's dead on too.
Yeah. Anyway, Impact,
you know what?
at
Don't
the time.
Listen to that album. Put a lime wedge in your garbage disposal, turn it on, and there you go.
Yeah. And then maybe like squish mud next to your ear while you do it. And it'll I don't know. I never intended this to turn into a shit on that album, not so much talk about this one, so that's my bad.
Right. And you know what?
Impact
Stir
at
some
the time.
macaroni and cheese.
Ugh. Yeah, you're right. That sucks.
Yeah.
Gross. It's gross.
All right, what are we on? Impact at the time?
Yep. What do you got?
I got a 5. I mean, this album was pretty much everything to us. Like, I wanted to look like Keith Buckley from the Ebola-Rama video. Like, I wanted my entire ethos to be I've been gone a long time. Like, this was just the deal.
So, and that's what I had to, again, like, we're going to do this a lot. We're going to do this always. It's never going to end. If we're trying to be objective, but the importance of this thing cannot be overstated in any way,
Right.
shape, or form. I mean, yeah, I've been gone a long time was like, I would actually say that song was a big part of why every metalcore band started to try to shoehorn a rock riff.
Oh, yeah.
Us included. We did the same thing, but like, because we're thinking like, oh yeah, rock riffs are cool. It's like, no, they did a cool thing just wall to wall. That doesn't mean that's just going to work next to your terrible tempo change breakdown. But yeah, that album was huge. It was everything. Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah, this album is why I had a cowbell. I'm positive it's why we had claps and songs.
100%. Yeah.
So, all that said, how much did you enjoy listening to it today?
So, I'm gonna give it a 4. It was all. This would be since we are gonna act like Shai Hulud never existed. I'm gonna forever try not to do decimal points. This would be the 4.5 if we were gonna do that. But I'm gonna give it a 4, just because. And yeah, don't come at me. I know technically rounding up, if you were moving decimal points, you would round that up to a 5. I get it. Go fuck yourself. So
suck it.
Yeah. So I'm giving it a 4, and I don't have a strong reason to. It's just again, production leaves something a little bit to be desired. I don't think it helped being shoehorned between some of the albums on this list.
Yeah.
From that perspective, I do think some songs are still a little haphazard, not in a good way, like they can do what they were capable of. But like, don't get me wrong, the day that I say songs like Floater, Ebola-Rama, I've Been Gone a Long Time, and Romeo a Go-Go don't make me happy and I don't enjoy listening to those, it's because I need to have my license taken away and put in a home and then kicked in the face. Because like, something in me I'm either super old and I'm not functioning in the right way and my brain is fucked, or something is terribly wrong with me and I need help. But
right.
Because they just rule. So I can't give it a 5 just because there's a couple things that just aren't as great as the rest, but
right.
It's definitely no lower than that.
Yeah.
What about you?
I gave it a 5, and I said this is a hard nostalgia factor, but I don't care.
Yep.
And then plus, it's 27 minutes long. Like, you can just this isn't even your whole night.
No. If you know what that's from, that's awesome. And you'll probably notice a pattern with some of the things that are dropped in there. Like, this ain't even my whole night. But yeah, you're right. The nostalgia factor could have taken it to a 5 for me too, and probably should have. But it was just like, yeah. No, I don't blame you at all for giving it a 5. Not even a little bit. I wasn't too far off.
I don't blame
from
you
it.
for giving it a 4. Yeah, or a 4.49 if you want to round down.
Yeah. See? Dicks. Except technically, it doesn't matter.
Guys are dicks in there anyway.
All right. What do we got next, man?
What do we have next? I know the answer to this. I do. But I'm going to look and pretend like I don't. Oh, God. I keep getting surprised. I'm so glad we picked these 5. And listen, everybody, it was a struggle to pick these 5. We got to 8 pretty quick, but we're like, that's too many ostriches.
Yeah, and it, just a little inside baseball. We really had this idea at the end of last year, and like, we had a list to go full year. And don't worry, that's the plan next year, to keep this going every week. You should have something. I mean, holidays may impact, though. I'm gonna make sure that something's posted the week of Christmas and Thanksgiving, because I know you guys aren't gonna get a lot. So we're gonna make sure to put them out there. We're a little too late in the game to try to be like, we're gonna take next week off but that was the plan. It didn't happen, and it was really hard. There's still some albums out there that maybe one day we can do a, if people care, we could maybe, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But just so you know what the idea was and is going forward, but this is why we're kind of doing this, because next year we found so many albums that it's like, yeah, that we're going to have to do one of these once a quarter to even sort of hit the mark.
Right.
2004 was a good year for metal, screamo, metalcore, emo, the whole thing. It was just really good. All right, what do we got next, though?
Himsa, Courting Tragedy and Disaster.
That is awesome. Also, by the way, you may not have listened to Himsa. They were like the
Good
metal.
Chance. Yeah.
They were like the metal artists metal band. Like, I remember like the dudes from Shadows Fall always talking about them, and anytime you would see them, they'd have a Himsa hoodie on, and it was like I don't know, they had just enough that wasn't right to where I get why they never got huge, but if you really listen to them, they're just really good. So, I really highly recommend checking all of their albums out. I mean, who knows if we're around long enough to get to another one, but start here, go forward, because I do think they had something before this one too that's also probably not advisable necessarily.
They did, yeah. It was the reviews kind of landed a lot more on like straight up punk, because they're from Seattle, Washington, so they're kind of in that scene. But actually, if you really want an interesting read, go to the Lamb Goat review for this album. They gave it a 9 out of 10.
Shit, I'm not even. Wow, good. That's awesome, though. Like,
and that's the kind of power that they had within the metal community at the time. But like, then you've got the All Music review that gives it a 3 out of 5, and that's kind of just where they ended up. Yeah,
and Lamb Goat was that for metal. Like, it was like the metal dudes review. Like, it's kind of like Metal Injection is now. I mean, well, Lamb Goat's still around. I just find their culture to be pretty toxic and mostly offensive, so I don't really go there. But
I know none of that, so they've got good reviews. Or did.
They do have good reviews. And don't get me wrong, if you would have asked me to review this in 2003, I would have given it a 9 out of 10.
Absolutely.
Like, no doubt about it.
So what are we going to give it today?
Anyway.
Let's start with the album artwork. What do you got?
Album artwork. It's just a little cheesy for me. Like, it seems like I know the vocalist had a devil lock and did the fingerless gloves, and like,
dude, I wanted to be Pettibone, and I referenced this in my notes. Like, you remember that it was probably Revolver, but that magazine spread he had where he was holding the sword in one hand, there was fire back behind him. Like, that was like everything I wanted to be. He had a great beard in that picture too. Can't find it anywhere.
Oh yeah.
But it lives rent free in my brain. Yeah.
I was gonna say it existed. I can confirm that. I don't. So this one is. I guess I'm gonna kind of knee jerk. Let me look at it again real quick, because I had an idea in my head, but I just want to make sure I mean, you know what? It gets the point across really well. It seems weird to give the last one a 3 and this one not a 3, because it kind of falls in the same place for me. No, you talked me into a 4. Then I'm looking at it. I'll give it a 4.
Sick. So I'm with you. Like, I wanted to give it a 3. My gut reaction was a 3, because it's kind of a hodgepodge with some like algebraic equations. Like, you're not really sure what's going on. But the redeeming factor that kicked it up to a 4 for me was that I've never been able to tell which way you're supposed to look at the face. And if you look at it from the right or the left, the expression changes from like sinister to terror. And I think that kind of sums up like the concept of this album. And I loved that.
Man, that's well done by you, and that makes me way more confident in my 4. So good.
Sick.
Good. Yeah, well done. Production then verse now. What you got?
I said super solid again. Everything sounds good. Maybe a little heavy on the high end, but the guitars are featured, and they absolutely should be, because these were probably 2 of the best guitarists at the time, kind of showing off what they could do.
Yeah, they were ahead of the game with the rest of the metalcore community for sure.
Yeah.
So what do you got?
4.
4? Okay. So I'm giving it a 3. And again, this is just like Hot Damn. It was impacted by the surrounding music that I was listening to get to this. And I can't. Yeah. So I got a 3, and that's pretty much. I think if you listen to it, you could easily give it a 4 or a 3. I don't think you would give it a 2, and I don't think you would give it a 5.
You're right. I completely agree with that.
That's fair.
3.5. Split the diff.
Impact at the. Yep. There you go. Impact at the time.
I gave it a 4. Why didn't I give this a 5? But man, okay. Here's why. I wrote it down.
Nice.
So I wore the shit out of this album, admittedly, and like
same.
But I don't know that it necessarily had a huge impact on our songwriting, or like I want to listen to more bands like Himsa because. And please don't actually, you know what? Do come at me. Like, I couldn't think of a band that was like, if you like Himsa, also check out bleh. Like another band just doesn't come to mind because they had that special, unique quality to me. But again, like, I don't think it necessarily, like you talked about earlier, it didn't impact me the same way as some of these other albums did. So that's why I gave it a 4.
No, I'm totally with you. I landed on a 4 too for literally
sick.
Yeah, it's the exact same reason. I mean, I do remember like trying to push you a little more to do the decade like that thing because of this album a little bit, but like you know, it was more just something I wanted to listen to. It's not something I extrapolated much from. It was just a good record, and it was on a lot, and quality shit. But you're right. The large part why no one sounds like them is because they're vocalists. I mean, it's not for everybody. I can see listening to it and not loving that, but it is. That's what it is for me. It has to be him. But if you listen to it now out of context, you might be like, "Man, this vocalist sucks," and I would be like, "I can't argue with you necessarily,
right?"
But I personally like it, just because of what it was.
And even on later albums, like, I don't think you cared for his vocals as much because he started doing some highs that you really didn't like.
You know, it's funny that changed over time for me because you're right. Good. I didn't, but once they finally got to, whatever their final Summon in Thunder, rules, fucking rules, and it holds up right now. You can go listen. This one may not. This one may not hold up for you because of production and some other variables, but Summon in Thunder, 2007, go listen to that shit. It holds up right now.
Yeah. So, how much did you enjoy listening to this one today?
Also giving it a 4. I do think part of this was the fatigue from previous listens. A little, maybe. I don't know that for sure. That's my best guess. I couldn't quite land on a 5, though.
I did land on a 5, but you're totally right about the fatigue. I mean, that Lamb Goat review even talks about it. It's like, it's great, but you're going to need some stamina to get through Pettibone's vocals. Like, a solid 43 minutes of this, it's a lot.
Yeah. Very good album. It's just, it's very unique. You said unique, and I agree. It's very unique, and it is in a good way, I think, but you could easily find it in a bad way. I wouldn't, argue your point if that's where you landed. Right. Well, that lands us on the Agony scene, and I said eponymous because it's really just self-titled, and I was trying to be fancy.
Well done.
The self-titled album from the Agony scene, which doesn't even have a wiki page. Which is very
we talked about that, and I forgot already. Yeah. Very,
very weird. Well, what do you think about the album art?
I gave this one a 3. It's just a little generic. Pretty basic. It's fine overall, so that to me is a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's fine. Just like the last one could have easily fallen in the same exact spot, but the fact that it had that little interesting things here and there, I mean, it's well done artwork, by the way. I mean, it's like it doesn't look like it was done by a computer. It doesn't It looks like it's well done, but I don't know. The little
It's
flares
an
is very
eyeball.
yeah. The little like flary floral things make me think just straight up Orange County metalcore like Atreyu and stuff.
As LA
It's
Dying
everyone
ripoff.
kinda- yeah. So I say 3. What about production then versus now?
So I was listening to these kind of like all back to back, so I was feeling
Same.
generous. I was in a great mood. I gave it a 4.
Nice. I think this holds up to the other 2 5s that I gave. Like I think
Damn.
I really do. They didn't fall flat in the whole nothing but high thing. There was no they have bass. I think the drums are really well produced. His vocals are just if you've never heard of the Agony scene, which is another band which I would not be surprised if you hadn't. I mean, again, this doesn't even have a wiki page. He's like one of the best vocalists from that time period. He's fucking incredible. And they stayed good. Like they ended up kind of being like black metal kind of later on, and it's real sick. Like they don't have really a bad album in my eyes.
Heads up,
but
he
anyway.
starts singing on some of the following albums. And,
He does, and then he quits again.
Yeah, if you were in 2003 and then heard that next album, you'd be like, "The fuck is this shit?" But I mean, use your grown-up brain and be a little bit. Just take it for what it is.
Yeah, his singing voice isn't that bad. It's way better than the Bleeding Through guy. I've never understand why that guy kept singing. It's like I don't like. I love his vocals. Otherwise, that's kind of the problem for me with maybe both of those dudes. Like your screams are so good. Just keep doing that. Like I understand you want to. Anyway, I'm not trying to yuck anyone's yum. Right? You should write music for yourself and for no one else. So it's all good. But
I'm so glad you used that expression because I was gonna say the same thing, and then I was gonna go on this rant because I fucking hate that expression. I think it's gross. I don't think anyone should use it.
Awesome. Well, buckle up because I kind of use it a lot.
Sweet.
Oh man. Impact at the time. What do you got?
I gave it a 5.
Okay.
And so this one kind of did impact me that the way, like in that way that the Himsa one didn't, to give it a 5. So like, I loved every second of it. I wanted to, like, the drums were kind of my jam. I loved the drums, and then I wanted to be the Agony scene. So thought it was super cool.
It is funny because at the time I thought the drummer was really basic, and now listening at this run through, he does a lot of cool shit that I didn't notice back then. I'm landing on a 4. I don't really have a good explanation for it. It was just kind of that's my gut reaction to it. I think it could have swayed to a 5 pretty easily. It's just I wasn't into the whole like mesh shirt thing.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I
like,
forgot about
and
all
it's
that.
not
I
that should really
forgot
matter
what
if
these
you're listening
dudes
to an
look
album.
like.
Yeah, that shouldn't matter. But I do think subconsciously it impacted my decision a little bit. But even still, I'll just go into it. But enjoyed listening it. Well, actually, you go ahead. Enjoyed listening to it today. What do you got?
I had to give it a 5 again. So like again, I loved every second, and it holds this weird place in my brain from when we saw the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like I remember listening to this album on the way home from watching that movie and like associating some of the lyrics, and like so those two are forever tied in my brain together.
That's awesome. I actually, now that you say it, I remember it. I never understood why they were on Solid State. It's really odd to me. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Not that that matters in our scope here today, but like, look up Solid State's lineup in 2003, guys. It's not the Agony scene. I wonder if they just saw Diamond in the Rough and just said like, it's okay that you're talking about like taking off flesh and making a mask.
Right.
But I gave it a
Lines
4.
of Suicide, Eyes Sewn Shut, Shotgun Wedding, The Damned, We Bury Our Dead at Dawn. Yeah, there's one of these things is not like the other solid
the rest of them is like God is great, God is good, and it's like, and then these dudes. So it's just like very, very odd. I gave it a 4, only because I've never really liked the song Nausea. It just goes for a little too long, and it's that whole. I never loved that whole like drone thing. Like Norma Jean did a lot of that, though I do think Norma Jean did it better.
Right.
So I didn't love that. I used to love that cover of Paint It Black, but now I don't really. It's fine, but I just remember loving it, and I just, it doesn't hit me the same as it once did. But other than everything else, great. So still a 4.
Sick.
Yeah. So
and
there we are,
if
people.
You want
that
more
is
Agony scene. Check out Barn Burner is an obvious standout, and
great
Dances with
song.
Devils.
Yes. And honestly, what's the album after this? The Red, something the Red. Damn it.
Is it Get Damned, or is it just the Red?
The Darkest Red. The Darkest
Red.
Go listen to Scapegoat also. Incredible.
That's the one I meant.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Best
honestly,
song.
most of that album. And again, I don't hate any of the singing on it. I think it's fine. Like it's like I think that album. I actually think that's the superior album to this one, because they leaned a little more into like the Slipknot riffs, which I kind of dig in their like type of music. I kind of dig that. All right, guys, we made it through 5 albums. I don't know if this went as fast or what I expected, but here we are. So just to recap, and I can't believe we got 2 of these. We've got a 20 for Josh, 20 for me, for a total of 40 for Waking the Fallen. We've got a 19 for me, 16 for Josh for Death Called Armageddon for a total of 35. Oh, no, never mind. We didn't land on 2 of them. I misspoke there. Sorry. Still, 35 is pretty damn good.
I'm surprised we got a 40. And I'm surprised it was Waking the Fallen.
Same. I honestly went in expecting to not really like it that much.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of expected it not to hold up, because there's part of me that has that, like, they immediately make me think of, why'd you change? Even though it's like, now it's like, yeah, of course you did. And you should have. Again, write music for you, not others. Every Time I Die, Hot Damn, 19 for Josh. Oof, very close to a 20. Yeah. 16 for me and 35 overall. Himsa, Courting Tragedy and Disaster, if that's not the most Pettibone album title, go look up Pettibone from 2003. That's exactly what you think he would call an album. 17 for you, 15 for me with a 32 total. None of these did bad. And then Agony Scene, self-titled, 17 for Josh, 16 for me for a total of 33.
Damn.
So, pretty good. Yeah, we couldn't skip these guys. We just couldn't. If this went a little long, which editing will decide that, my apologies, but hopefully the juice was worth the squeeze. And you maybe learned a band you haven't heard of before.
The people of Gotham. That was terrible.
Great.
Terrible impression of Tom Hardy.
I was born in the dark.
That was way better.
That's the only one I can do. It's like, I don't think I could say any of the other lines from that movie like that. Love that movie.
Sick.
Well, I think we overloaded however many people are going to listen to us talk about 5 albums. You'll be listening to this the week of Christmas, so however you celebrate that, I hope it goes well. Be kind to each other, whether you agree with how you're going to do things or not. And, just don't suck.
Just celebrate it by listening to this and have a good time.
Yeah. Hopefully this at least maybe kills some time on your commute.
Yeah. So with that, this has been a little jam session. He was Brad.
Jam.
I was Josh. Sick. And we were 2 decades too late.